We got this thing up on the quick jacks, fellas. We had to bleed brakes, so I figured to put it on the quick jacks so that way it was easier. We can get to all four wheels without any issues. But the purpose of this video, let me show you what's going on. Guys, what is up? Welcome back to the channel. So, I realized that I didn't make a video on this on that last car we built on that 72 Chevelle project, and it's kind of been an issue. I wouldn't really call it an issue. I guess it can be a problem if you really don't know what to do about it. And we fixed it on that car, but I want to show you guys how to do it. And it's super simple, super easy. You don't need much, but it's really going to save you some time, some headache. And I went through this headache. It took me a little bit to figure out exactly what to do, some research, not to mention a few phone calls. But if you guys are running a Dakota digital dash like we are, like we pretty much running everything. I love Dakota digital dashes, but sometimes they don't like to work hand in hand with, depending on the wiring harness you use. Of course, we use a lot of PSI, but even with, what do you call it, Holly even, and or even all the other harnesses on the market when it comes to these LS swaps. And usually you'll have a mid light, or a mill light I should call it. They call it a mill light, check engine light basically, that comes off the harness, and then you have to plumb it to your Dakota digital box. But what happens is you'll end up throwing a check engine light on the dash, and then you'll like freak out because you don't know what's going on or what's not. But a lot of times what happens, that check engine light is a false check engine light because the Dakota digital and your engine harness has a little bit of a miscommunication, I would call it. So long story short, you need basically a small load on that circuit in order to take that light away. And you might think, well, how do you know if you really have a check engine light? We're going to show you here in a little bit, but let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. Obviously, we got our Dakota digital installed and everything. This is obviously once you have everything installed and wired up. So what we'll do is we'll flip the key on, and what will happen is, obviously that light will always be there no matter what until you turn the engine on and actually have this thing running, and then in theory it should go away. But what happens is it stays on even though the engine's running perfect and great and all the above. But in order to verify that, but you always want to verify to make sure that check engine light is not an actual, issue. But so what I'll do is I'll show you here. We're going to get our, just a little OBD2 reader, nothing crazy. This is probably something from AutoZone or even Harbor Freight. You don't need anything big. You don't need a whole freaking system or even like a laptop to check. Anything you have that'll check a check engine light and give you codes, that's all you really need. So we're going to pull our plug off of here, our Dakota Digital OBD2 port plug. We'll pull this one off. I have it down here on mine, depending on where yours is set up. If I can do this with one hand and hold the camera. Actually, so what I'm going to go ahead and do before we plug in, I'm going to start the car, and so you can see what I'm talking about. That light stays on. Let's see here. Oh yeah, baby, that never gets old. Sounds good. Okay, you can see check engine light is still on, right? Everything is still on. Obviously we got to calibrate some stuff, the speedometer, things like that. But so what we'll do is we'll plug in our reader here. Even though the car is running good, doesn't sound like there's any issues. I don't know if you guys can see this screen. Let's this thing load up. So as you can see here, I don't know if you guys can read that, but it says no powertrain DTCs or freezes frame data is present stored in the vehicle's computer. So we don't have any engine light codes on, but that light is still on. That's an O2 sensor one, not really a big deal, but we don't actually have any check engine light on. So let me shut this off. So again, we verified that there's nothing actually wrong with the motor or any issues. So how do we get rid of that light? So for us, we mounted our Dakota Digital box up here. I really like to mount them up here just because they're easy to get to for this particular reason. So you usually have an engine input on the actual Dakota digital box here, and this brown wire is the actual signal wire that's coming from the ECU, and that's basically sending the signal over to the Dakota digital. Now Dakota digital, like again, their dash setups are a little, I guess you can call it delicate, or just they're very sensitive when it comes to depending on the signal that comes in there. So they require a small load on this check engine light wire, I should say. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put a small load. So we're going to put a small light LED bulb, or basically a small indicator, and we'll put our negative here. You'll run the negative, because this is all this is really is a ground trigger that's coming from the ECU. So we'll run our negative here, and then you're going to have to run a positive ignition on the other side. Let me show you. So this is the little guy here that we're going to end up using as our small load on that circuit. So just find something that has a 2-prong, basically a power and a ground. So this guy, we just kind of picked it up from the local auto parts store, a little Dorman, nothing crazy, but just something that is similar to this. You guys should be able to use. I even used a smaller one before, but that's all they had at the time. So we're going to end up doing, we're going to run one to ground, and then one side to hot, but ignition hot. So we'll run the ground, we'll tie it in with the actual wire from PSI with the check engine light to the box, and then this guy will just find a accessory ignition power, and what it'll do, it'll put a small load onto that circuit, and that should eliminate your check engine light even when it's obviously running and there's no issues whatsoever. Now it will still come on, obviously, if you actually have a check engine light, and I'll show you guys how to test that. So for the purpose of this video, I just kind of went ahead and rigged it up. Nothing's laced in, nothing's permanent or anything. All we did is we just grabbed a ignition hot from right here from this post. Again, where it's just not permanent, just so I can show you guys. We got our light just sitting right there, and then we have the ground side just right there tied in with the other wire. So we're going to start this up, and that light should go away. So I don't know if you guys can see. Let me see if I can get over there. You see? Check engine light is gone, baby. So it is gone, and you should not have that light at all on either. That light should not be on as well, as long as you wired it up correctly, positive and negative. Make sure that's correct. But in order to test to make sure that it's still going to give us a check engine light when there's actually something wrong, what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the gas pedal, and you can see it'll trigger that automatically, that check engine light, because now there's something wrong. So yeah, again though, that took me a long time to figure out on my Chevelle. Again, I actually ran it with that check engine light because I knew the motor was good. I knew there was no codes. There was nothing going on as far as a problem up front, but I didn't know why that light stayed on. And again, for this car driving down the road and that light is always on, and it's gonna just bug the crap out of you. So we found out that little trick. Hopefully that trick helps you guys out. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna plug that pedal back in, and you'll see the check engine light actually will go away. Or actually, we might have to clear it on the ECU first, but let me plug that thing back in. All right, we got it plugged in. I'm gonna clear this code here. We're gonna erase all OBD2 DTC codes. Yes. Clear the code. All right. It says turn on engine, vehicle speed 0, and try again. All right, I think it wants the engine on. So prime this thing up again, start her up. Let this thing read. All right, it says erase was successful, and look at that, guys, just like that. That light turned off, no longer on, and dash, no more check engine light. Just what we want. I like it, you guys. I like it. Hopefully this information helps you guys out. I don't know if you guys ever run into this. And if you have and you guys found a different solution, put it down in the comments below. I would love to know what you guys done in the past. But what I got to do is I'm going to take this off and actually hardwire it into the car properly, so everything's nice and laced and tucked in. But hopefully you guys like this video. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the like button, and hit the bell for notifications. And you guys already know, stay wrenching.